one of the stories of the day is all this talk surrounding Brock Purdy and Brock Purdy's contract. There's a lot of people weighing in. Mike Florio was the latest, and we'll share the screen and we'll let people hear what Florio had to say with Michael Holley. Holley's covers the Patriots out of New England. And here they are talking about Mac Jones and Brock Purdy. Here we go.
Mac Jones has to be thrilled more than anything else because Robert Saleh is not the offensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers. He lived through that.
That's right.
After Josh McDaniels left to be the coach of the Raiders, Matt Patricia took over the offense, and just as foolishly and just as tragically for the Patriots that year, Joe Judge was in charge of the quarterbacks. Look, Mac Jones, I've heard enough about Mac Jones over the years, and I've seen enough from Mac Jones. He is not going to show up and bow down to Brock Purdy. He's going to go in there with the mindset of, I can win this job. I was the 15th pick in the draft in 22. This guy was the last guy taken in 23. This guy, right place at the right time, running Kyle Shanahan's offense. That's all you have to do. You listen to Kyle. You do what Kyle wants, and you're going to play well. And, Jimmy Garoppolo had limitations. Trey Lance never really worked out. Brock Purdy was the guy who kind of just slipped in the back door at a time when they were trying to figure out what the hell they were going to do with Trey Lance. I can do this. I can be that good. I can be better. That's going to be Mac Jones' attitude. He's going to go in there, regardless of whether or not it works.
Yeah.
But he's going in there not with the idea that I support Brock Purdy. No, I'm trying to beat Brock Purdy out, and I want to give the 49ers something to think about. And that's another reason for them to not show up with $60 million per year in new money average for Brock Purdy to get his deal done. Let's see what we got in Mac Jones before we do a long-term commitment with Brock Purdy.
Let me see if I can say it this way without calling anybody out in particular. But those who know will know. I remember I used to do talk radio. I did sports talk radio for 13 years in Boston. So we had a partner. It was great. And that partner moved on. I had to break in another partner. And there are certain people who, when they're not on the air and you talk to them, you really like them. They really make a lot of sense. But then when the red light comes on, you think, oh my God, this is awful. I like this person, but I don't like being on the air with this person. And so I think that's what Kyle Shanahan is going to find with Mac Jones. Mac Jones, if you talk football with Mac Jones, you love it. He understands, even before he was drafted. I don't know if you remember this, Mike, when that speculation that you mentioned earlier about Kyle Shanahan, they have the third pick in the draft. Will they draft Mac Jones? And Mac Jones is asked about it, and he gives this great, eloquent breakdown of the San Francisco offense. This is before he was even drafted. It was very impressive. So he is an impressive football mind when he's talking, but when he plays, it's not pretty. He just does things that are just head-scratching, and he will drive Kyle Shanahan crazy. He will make him crazy. So he's not going to beat out Brock Purdy. If he does beat out Brock Purdy, it's going to be for a game or two, and then Purdy will go right back in there and take the job back because he's just not capable of – I don't think he's capable of maintaining it at a starter's level. He's a cameo guy, but I don't think he's a starter anymore.
Interesting. What do you think, Chase, as far as I haven't talked to you about Mac Jones. What do you think of the Mac Jones addition? Do you look at it as a guy who potentially can be a starter? Is it a leverage play against the Purdy contract? Do you think Purdy and Jones coexist peacefully? How do you see the whole addition of Mac Jones?
So much to take away from what they just discussed. And Mike Florio actually got it wrong. Mac Jones was taken in 2021. That was the same draft class as Trey Lance. And then Brock Purdy was taken that following year in the 2022 NFL draft when he famously was made Mr. Irrelevant. And imagine where the Niners would be if it weren't for San Francisco taking Purdy with the final pick of that draft when Brian Griese, who's no longer with this coaching staff, was pounding the table saying, I think we should take this guy. And it's really helped to save this Niners organization, which brings us now to present day, because Purdy since then, in taking over for Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance as a rookie, what he did in 2023 when he was tremendous, so efficient to a historic level, helped lead this team to a Super Bowl, was top 5 in MVP voting. And then last year, it was a little bit rocky, but the entire season for San Francisco is rocky. Is now at a point where he's been a great bargain deal. He's made less than $1 million every single season that he's been in the NFL, set to make $5 million in the final year of his rookie contract. And he's looking for this new deal, which is one of the biggest storylines in recent memory for the Niners, considering the importance of the position, and one of the biggest storylines across the NFL, which is why somebody with a national platform like Mike Florio is talking about it. As far as Mac Jones goes, I like the Niners bringing in Mac Jones. It puts a little bit of pressure on Purdy coming off a down year. It gives them quarterback insurance because Purdy has been injured in his own right to start his career with the elbow surgery and the shoulder injury last year. Coming off of 2024, you're a little bit uneasy if you're thinking about giving Purdy $50 to $60 million, because you know if he occupies 20 to 25% of the salary cap, that's a lot. And Purdy is proven to be a quarterback who I think needs good players around him. You also don't have a backup quarterback for Purdy. Brandon Allen, not good enough to be in this league. Josh Dobbs, the Niners messed up that situation. He goes to the New England Patriots to back up Drake May. And so I think that Mac Jones is a high-level backup who Kyle Shanahan really likes. He fell in love with him in the pre-draft process. He has not had an ideal start to his career as far as having a foundational base beneath him, as far as having organizational and offensive stability. He has never had good skill level talent around him. The offensive coaching has never been good enough. Matt Patricia was his offensive coordinator, as Mike Florio said, and the one good year that Mac Jones had, he was a Pro Bowler, and he was one of the top rookies among all rookies in that draft class. Since then, he has not played well, but Mac Jones is a player who has some fire. He's very competitive. And because of that, he rubs some people the wrong way. I think that's a good influence on Purdy. And I think that Mac Jones looks at coming to the Niners as an opportunity to really resurrect his career and get back on track the way that Sam Darnold did. But he looks at this Niner situation saying, look at what Kyle Shanahan did with Nick Mullins. Look at what Kyle Shanahan did with C.J. Beathard. Look at what Kyle Shanahan's been able to do with Brock Purdy. And I know that some people will mock Mac Jones, but he is a smart and heady football player. Nick Saban has talked about that. Bill Belichick took him in the first round, midway through that first round. Kyle Shanahan really liked him. I think it's pretty telling that a lot of upper echelon, top tier football minds like him a lot. And when he was at Alabama, I know that team was loaded in 2020. He threw 41 touchdowns and 4 picks that year and led college football in a lot of different categories. So do I think that Mac Jones is being brought to San Francisco to compete with Brock Purdy to be the team's starting quarterback? No. But it's always good to bring competition in that room because competition brings the best out of everybody. Brock Purdy, Larry, said himself in front of you and others, I need to get back to playing with that chip on my shoulder. I didn't do that in 2024. And so he has a lot to prove. Mac Jones can help him do that. It's good quarterback insurance. And I'm always a fan of bringing in a backup who has pedigree, who has some potential in a good situation on a 2-year deal to potentially see what he can become down the road.